Dane Rose here, and thank you so much to those of you who are joining me in the whole year of this year of rapid and potent growth, 52 different videos on different topics. And week 18, and again I suggest doing these in order, Transcendence. And this has been very eye-opening and potent for me personally. Starting at age 14, I've achieved thousands of personal and professional goals, many of them bigger than I thought possible, and reached this plateau in my largely materialistic upbringing, where the idea of working hard to make more money for what? To buy more things for what that I didn't need? To do more things for what? You know, just to do them, just to have goals, seemed absurd. And it was absurd. And it led to a plateau. Anytime you are here and you set a goal that's here or here, you create a tension between the present moment and the future moment. And as you honor this tension with change, with growth, etc., you become not the person who doesn't know, doesn't have, isn't doing. You become the person who does have, who does know, who is doing whatever it is you set out to accomplish. And I want to suggest that the reason goals are so important, going back to an earlier program, the reason it's so encouraging to see my dog chasing with great vigor and absolute presence in the moment a little plastic toy around the room, which he's doing battle with as we speak, is not the goal. It's not the objective. The reason that it's important that he's doing that is because of what he has to become in order to do it well. He's got to get coordinated with his muscles. He's got to know his limits. He's got to get exercise. He's got to become a slightly more empowered dog to effectively complete the game of seemingly madly racing around in circles, attacking, running away, etc. from a little plastic toy. And I want to suggest that most of our goals are just as absurd objectively. Meaning I built my first house at 23, designed it, bought the land, designed it, did the site work, and it was a beautiful accomplishment. But I think that the most important part of achieving that goal was who I had to become, what I had to learn in order to achieve it, and debating what are the options here. So this is my moment for this video. Hey, Philip. Hey. Hey. Somewhat limited. This is a puppy that hasn't been trained. I want to suggest that what's important is the confidence that comes on the other side. the confidence of knowing, yes, I can plan and make a big thing happen. The confidence that comes from going against, for example, the experts. My realtor said it couldn't be done, this, that, and yet there it was. So let's look at some of the different things that facilitate transcendence. Sacrifice, an earlier video, honoring the sacred by feeding something we honor bigger than ourselves. This could be our family. This could be our appearance for a materialistic Westerner. This could be, in terms of what we make sacred enough to sacrifice. This could be a dream of excellence. This could be getting approval from our boss. Whatever it is that we make sacred, that we put up on a pedestal, and we know it's sacred by the fact that we give of ourselves in our time, our attention, and action in order to make it happen. That is what sacred is. Those are the limited resources that we have. And the most precious thing that our consciousness holds as precious is our sense of self. This is me. No one's going to tell me what to do. You can't change me. This is me. I'm not that. I don't like that food. I like this food. What's so precious about it? Well, it's very precious to our egos. Our ego is very precious to our egos. So we have honoring the sacred, giving up something of who we are. In service, in search, in dedication to, in order to become or achieve something that is bigger than ourselves. When we save money, we sacrifice the present moment because we want to have a certain level of freedom or a certain level of self-autonomy in the future. We weaken the present. We transcend the present that says me, now. Say, no. There will come a time when there is a wiser me in this brain, and I want them to be spending this money rather than me. Sure, rather me spend the money than me when I'm 20 years old. But there will come a time. Now, is that true? I hope so. Meaning, if you believe that you're going somewhere and that you have any value at all, you are doing Stephen Covey's 7th habit, sharpening the saw, investing in the self, so that the self that shows up next week knows a little bit more than the self here. And it is actually an act of sacrifice, of transcendence, of honoring the sacredness. In this sense, the sacredness of who we are becoming to save money for something. So we have saving money. We have goals. We have saving reserves. We have becoming something to achieve those goals. We have sacrifices. We have setting clear, if not goals, ideals. An ideal of being kind. An ideal of being beautiful. An ideal of being exquisite in some area. And so I'm going to study, and I'm going to think about, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to find mentors. I'm going to embark on the necessary thinking, feeling, saving, spending, and doing to become not what I am, but who I want to be. And this is all in the domain of transcendence. Now, the trouble with materialism as a paradigm in and of itself, which is, our dominant paradigm in the West, is not that you cannot be rich or have a luxurious life. I mean, I'm just finishing up 4 months and counting in Thailand, my favorite place to be, in my favorite part of Thailand. There's nothing wrong with comfort, etc. It's that what's the problem is that, you've got to save up, you've got to work hard, you've got to make money, etc., 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 so that you can retire. Well, what's retirement? Sitting around watching TV, doing nothing in particular, etc., etc. The problem is that when the goals are all materialistic, there does come a point, if you're halfway competent at learning those skills, when, okay, so I could get another car. So what does that mean? It means either I have to hire someone to maintain it, or I now have to vacuum 2 cars. I have to drive this one to the cleaner, then this one, and then update. And I'm basically running around to maintain my things, which is not an advancement. Because I don't have to become a more noble person, a more beautiful person. I don't have to become anything or grow at all just to manage more and more things. And so what I want to suggest is that there is a curve in Maslow's hierarchy of need, from survival to security to belonging, etc. And that once you get beyond that curve, where you're survived and you're secure in your survival, goals about accumulation no longer require transcendence and ultimately become imprisoning. Meaning, to go from illiteracy, where I can't read and write, and where I don't know how to sell something, and where I don't know how to be of service, where I don't have any talent. I mean, the beauty of the capitalist framework of economy and self-reliance is that every individual is challenged to transcend who they are as a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, to transcend who they are and become someone capable of self-determination. My girlfriend's quite young. It's actually quite unusual for me. I normally, a lot of my life, I've dated women older than me because I feel lucky to be around someone who has more emotional maturity and, like a good tennis player, can help you up your game, as opposed to someone who isn't challenging me on the inside. So we're at different stages of life in terms of she's learned to be a good employee, but she hasn't learned to be self-autonomous, be able to travel anywhere in the world and create her own money anywhere she wants, doing this, doing that. So that's my challenge to her. Why? It's not because I can't pay for things. I spend more time mentoring and teaching the ropes than it doesn't make any sense at all. Like I might spend 3 hours teaching her to make $50 online. well, that's just cost me $600. That doesn't make sense in that terms. See, this is the problem with a materialistic culture. See, the efficient thing to do is what? Just have her be dependent. And this is an atrocity. I watched it with my mother and my father, where it grew to a point where they needed to separate. And she hated him. But she was scared because she'd been dependent since she was 17. And so this dependency starts warping freedom, it warps the self, it warps honesty. So then we got to have secret affairs and this. It's disgusting. It is a disgusting state of being. Well, how can you support every single person in having their own dignity? So that if there is ever a single day where they would rather be somewhere else other than with you, that they'll do it rather than dishonor you by being there because they have to, rather than because there's nowhere else in the world they'd rather be. How do you create a reality where you know the woman you love, the man you love is there because you are the most significant person in their world? And while they could choose anyone, they're choosing you today, and today, and today, because today's worth it. How do you create that kind of reality? Well, you don't do it by having one person be completely dependent on the other person financially. Because then what happens is one day she thinks, oh, I'd rather be off so-and-so. Or he says, I had a woman offer me a few million to marry her. She was quite keen on the engagement. No, I'm not doing that. The thing that keeps a relationship vital, in my experience, is having enough of a separate identity and enough of a separate foundation where to be together every day you have to choose to be together. Otherwise it doesn't happen. You both have to choose again and again and again and again. And the reason this is so great from a point of transcendence is one day, hey, you want to come over? I'm not feeling it. Aha. Why? Well, you've been a bit sarcastic recently. I'm bored watching Star Trek with you. I met this interesting person. I felt more alive there. I don't really like eating hummus, but you seem to be in a hummus phase. And and we're not growing. We're not growing. Okay, great. You know that on day one, because that's the day you don't say, hey, let's get together, because it takes an effort. But if you're completely enmeshed and interdependent, and it would be a nightmare to separate your reality, are you going to be honest with yourself or your partner? Hey, you can be honest with them. Of course not. And this is where I meet these women in highly dependent relationship. And I'm sure it's nothing to do with gender. Who tell me things. Hey! Who tell me things that they're not telling their partner. And I don't want that. So anyway, I'm challenging, my partner to have weekly goals and get them done that move towards a reality where she can be as much of a partner as she wants to be. And the most important thing is who she's going to have to become, the way her image evolves. Because when you know you can make money anywhere, anytime, it's a very different feeling than being afraid, for example, of a boss. Philip the troublemaker. Happy come. So when you become someone that can do anything, anytime, it challenges you to notice who you want to be. And so here's the crisis in my reality, and why I'm so passionate about this kind of thing is I reached the point where I do not want to be a slave of my things, and I don't need more tools. I don't need more household things. I don't need more stuff. So then what's the point of making money? Well, there really isn't one. So then what's the point of working? Well, if the whole point of working was to make money to buy these things and I've got them, it's like, what's the point? There isn't really a point. And this creates inertia. It creates a plateau in growth. See, now, according to the American dream, this is, I've arrived, right? Now, I've never felt so miserable in my life as when I stopped having a reason to become more in order to do something important, something meaningful to me. And another thing, so, and this is where I think partnering comes in. This is where a deep, meaningful relationship that is sacred comes in. Hooray, Philip, hooray. Because it's a reason to become more. Meaning, I'm not teaching my partner entrepreneurial skills to make money. I'm teaching her entrepreneurial skills because I love seeing who she becomes as she succeeds at this goal and this goal and this goal. I love the way it shifts her image. I love her happiness. I love the pride in her eyes as she shows me something she didn't think she could do, but now she knows she can do anytime. And I could give a shit about the money. But I give anything to see that look in her eyes. And this brings me, into one of what I think is one of the most important areas of transcendence. Family somewhat forces it upon us, but it's why I'm so disgusted with the kind of casual sex type, kind of friends with benefit without meaning type of relationship. It's not because there's anything wrong with sex. It's not because it isn't pleasurable. It's because it doesn't require either person to become something more. Because it doesn't take a lot of talent to show up and fuck someone for a few hours and then disappear and not even know much of it. I mean, it takes so little talent. So we have relationship. Now, the last teaching was, the last blog was teach someone something you know. Teaching is a form of transcendence. You have to become, I was a student, now I'm a teacher. I was a taker, I received something, now I'm a giver. And if you want to give to me in any of this thing, I've just started a nonprofit, Happiness Data. And my most exciting thing that I'm up to is figuring out how to potentize that, how to have the most positive impact that I'm capable of with the least amount of time, money, and effort. A design challenge, efficiency. Businesses are all about this. They can't wait to design and create a widget more efficiently than anyone else so that they can make more money. Well, this is a different game. This is figuring out a design of impact so that you can create more impact per time, per minute, and dollar spent than anyone else. It's a game of contribution. But of course, it's the more dollars there are, the more practice and fiddle around you can play with that game. So this is exciting. And I'm going to fund it. And if anyone wants to join me, this is a great way to give back. It's exciting. And join it in time or whatever, happiness data. So this is transcendence. Basically, what I want to suggest is that the point of life, if you were told like I was to get rich, so that you can be lazy, is exactly wrong. Meaning, I'm going to suggest that the reason I was so excited in my 20s was not because I had it, was not because I had arrived, but because every week I was having to become and grow more in order to reach the next point in my goals. And I'm going to suggest that when I plateaued living in my perfect house most of the year on vacation, going to my favorite places, whatever, sex or food, great organic food, wonderful vitamins, therapy, healing work, whatever, all coming to me. Here's, great massage, here's this, coming to me. You see, they were all growing. Those masseuses, those therapists, those people growing the business, selling me the great organic teas and the great organic food, and the travel agencies, they were all growing. I was coasting on their growth, and it made me sick. It was so confusing. And that's why I'm passionate about this topic, is it's taken me a couple of years to figure out why I've been less fulfilled than at any other point in my life after having a better reality than I've ever had, with none of, no problems, etc. This is a challenge. And so I want to suggest that we honor the things that require us to become more. So who requires us? What requires us to become more? Difficult relationships require us to become more. And I'm not talking about this in a survival way, by the way. You need to do and make your life as easy as possible to survive. You're not looking for another more difficult boss, No. You're trying to make things efficient. Cut out this. I can't talk to that person. They always bring me down. I got to stay focused, otherwise I'm going down. I'm not talking about that. You've got to get to a point of security. Now, if you work your ass off to become secure, where you feel secure in your skill, in your knowledge, etc., you will be transcending. You will be growing rapidly. You don't have to worry about it. This is the gift of fear. The gift of survival, the gift of fear, is that you don't have to consciously sacrifice. This is the hardest thing for a human being to do. Why? Because we identify with our ego. And to sacrifice voluntarily doesn't strengthen the ego. It strengthens the self. It strengthens who we are becoming. And that's what makes it sacred. That's what makes it transcendent. To transcend who we are. And as I said, the gift of survival, the gift of scarcity, the gift of terror, the gift of trauma, is that we must become more than we are or we don't make it. And if you're here, you've made it. Because of that fear, because of that necessity, because of that scarcity, You were determined and you made it here. But once you reach that point of security, you are no longer required to sacrifice. Now it becomes voluntary. And I want to suggest that in a materialistic culture, in a self-centered materialistic culture, this is where a lot of people go dead. Their growth tapers off. Their aliveness tapers off. This is the trap of retirement. It's the most dangerous idea you could possibly imagine. To reach a point where, because you don't need to grow to be comfortable, you stop growing. I would suggest that a life of scarcity, where life keeps throwing you one obstacle after another, and I want to suggest actually that this underlies the positive nature of self-sabotage. The positive nature of self-sabotage, to continually push ourselves back to the edge of security and survival. If we don't have the character to keep our lives interesting and alive and growing, like I remember, I started off making $7 an hour. And I was quite comfortable. Saved up money for long-term goals, saved up money for nonprofit donations, 10% fund temp, $7 an hour, no problem. Kept going up. It's reaching hundreds of dollars an hour. I don't have any savings. What's going on? It's like, it doesn't matter how much money I make. I decided to treat it like an addiction. That worked. You just go cold turkey on all spending until a minimum threshold of savings is met, and then do not dip below that amount. And it's an addiction, so it takes a while for it to wear off. Adrenaline addiction. See, I was living for the vitality of getting all my checks to bounce. It was so much fun. This was my surfing. It's like I write a check for something just beyond my means. And then I work like hell all week till my means catch up with the check. And then the check doesn't bounce. And I've grown. I've made it. I've learned to be more efficient. I found a new route. I learned to drive faster in traffic. I was accelerating. Now, it's an adrenaline addiction, but I was partnering with that to grow. So when suddenly I had tons of money saved, because, it's not hard. You just stop buying stuff you don't really need until you got, 6 months of savings cushion. Now suddenly there's no adrenaline. There's no rush. I can't say, oh my God, if I don't do this, and this, and get it done by Thursday, and then do this and close this deal. If I don't do all that, my check isn't going to bounce, and I'll feel terrible. So done it all. Another week just ahead of the bounce check. So I didn't have any of that. So it's like, why rush around? What's the point? It's like, got plenty of money in the bank, what? And it's confusing when we don't understand that the goal is not to reach a point where we can curl up and die comfortably. The goal is to create environments, consciously and voluntarily, where we are always growing, where we are always going beyond ourselves. And I have a real sweet spot for relationship. I've been noticing over the last year that because I care a lot about my partner's future, I'm making all kinds of choices to help her future. But I'm around her, and many of the choices affect both of us, like this dog. I bought it for her. But I've got to learn dog training in order to cohabitate with this, habitate with this dog. So I'm growing. I'm having to learn mentoring skills to help her with her career more than I have to learn with a typical businessman in my sphere. There's no issue. Some of this stuff is basic. So I have to learn it and teach it from her perspective. And yet it's so much more rewarding. It's so much more beautiful. So value transcendence, value opportunities to transcend more than efficiency. So here's part of my trap. I'm a good engineer. So I delegated my entire house to a house manager. I delegated every onerous aspect of my business to a virtual assistant. I have everything I want exactly the way I want it. There's just one problem. I'm not growing. So this is for me. I've just come back from a wonderful moonlight midnight stroll on the beach. I've been wined and dined at 3 of my favorite venues this evening. I've played with a puppy. I've spent a wonderful day with the most amazing woman in the world. This is not hard. This doesn't challenge me to, give up my arrogance or anything like that. No, this is coasting. This is flatlining, and it's boring. But this is hard. This is hard. Coming up with ideas, sitting down. My hip hurts a bit. When I stand for more than 10, 20 minutes, deciding what to do with the dog, how to do that challenges me. And so I'm actively looking, and I invite you to join me in seeing the opportunities in your world, be it world crisis, be it personal failings, be it the courage to be honest, not from a point of view of what is the easiest way to handle this. So, not what is the easiest way to have sex. Not what is the easiest way to handle this fight, not tell the truth and just give in or apologize when you're not really sorry just because they like hearing it or whatever like this. But what would require you to become more like the person you want to be? And to look at those opportunities as sacred invitations, as sacred doorways. Not to get more of what you want easier. But much like someone choosing to bicycle to work rather than take a motorbike, or someone choosing to do yoga rather than just have a surgery to remove excess fat, or someone learning to eat well and cook well. Like, here's a way of looking at it. You come on with a great diet, like I love all organic food, and so you realize quickly you can't eat out everywhere, at least not when I was growing up. So that means you got to be a great chef. A great opportunity to be a great chef. And it's one of the greatest joys in my life. Inventing more than 500 recipes. One day I'm so pissed off that I realized even if I broke everything in my room, I'm 14 years old, just furious, I wouldn't be able to vent the anger. So I've got to become a poet. So I've got to sit down and write thousands upon thousands of poems before I have the art form to fully express the intensity of that emotion. And the horrendous marriage of my parents gives rise not to just giving up, but to a poet. Who can I become that transcends these opportunities? And I'm not grateful for the pain and suffering. See, and here's actually a very, very important point. If you will voluntarily transcend yourself, meaning save more money than you need to save to pay the rent, save more, get more skills than you need at this time, you will get ahead of the game. But the game is transcendence. And the worst possible thing you can do is get yourself into a secure and comfortable position with the idea that it is dangerous to venture outside of your little self-referencing circle for the rest of a mediocre life, and then die with nothing horrible happening yet. A wonderful way to go through life is continuously challenging ourselves to, okay, I'm a great materialist. How about being a great Buddhist? Okay, I'm a great Buddhist. How about being a great materialist? Okay, you've sat there and chanted for 10 years. Do you know anything about selling? Do you know anything about making money? Do you know how to depend on yourself rather than just go around begging for rice? How about doing the other thing that requires you as a monk to grow? Well, back at you. You're a great businessman. You're a good-looking gal, whatever it is. How about learning to do the opposite? So, everyone likes you. Okay, boring. How about dealing with people with mental disorders? Can you enter that state? Can you be of service? Can you challenge yourself to grow? So this is an exciting thing. I want to invite you to join me in this. Become a human being. Become someone you are not currently capable of being. Enjoy the journey. And look at the adversities and the opportunities to serve as doorways into a you. That you don't know this, that you don't know yet, in preparation for the greatest transcendent doorway of all time. Because there's light and chaos, there's infinite chaos and light all around us in the multiverse, physical and non-physical, and we're in this tiny little segment of the multiverse called this universe, called this galaxy, called this planet, called this little body, called these stereotypes, and this crazy mind. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful as we give our last breath, our consciousness is released from everything we thought we knew we were and finds itself in a place that is transcendent of everything that we've known, more beautiful, more complex, more interconnected, more one with all that is, in a way that we cannot even fathom within the human brain. Wouldn't it be great if every step of our life prepared us for that ultimate journey to transcend the gender, the species, etc., and become something that we cannot even imagine? Maybe learning to be a mother, learning to train a dog, learning to build a house, learning to do our job with excellence, learning to clean our house with excellence, learning to design this, learning to improve this business, learning to make this person smile, learning to make this person wonder. Maybe the journey to become the person that allows us to do that is muscle building, is reps, one rep after another, so that we come to a point. Everything that we know and thought we knew falls away. And it's one more step, the most important transcendent moment of our lives. Thank you for watching.